Welcome back. Well, Australian authorities are probing a terror attack in Sydney, with investigators examining possible overseas links, including to Pakistan. In a key diplomatic outreach, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Shankar has spoken to Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong, extending full support and reiterating India's commitment to counter-terror cooperation. Investigators have identified two individuals of Pakistani origin, a father and a son, who were central to this case. The first gunman was or has been identified as Sajid Akram, aged 50, who was shot by police and died at the spot. Officials say Akram arrived in Australia in 1998 on a student visa, moved to a partner visa in 2001 and later held resident return visas. He owned a fruit shop, held a firearms license for nearly 10 years and had 6 weapons registered in his name. The second suspect is his son, 24-year-old Naveed Akram. He suffered critical injuries during the incident and remains under medical supervision. Authorities say he is an Australian-born citizen who worked as a bricklayer. Security agencies are now mapping their travel history, online radicalization patterns and any links to banned outfits or handlers operating outside Australia. Officials have cautioned that these details are still being verified and any action will follow due process. The attack has once again renewed focus on global terror networks. Over the years, multiple attacks and shootings across countries have been linked by international agencies to Pakistan-based individuals or groups, a concern raised repeatedly at global forums by nations including India and Australia. In response, Australia's National Cabinet has agreed to tighten gun laws. As an immediate step, the government will move to expand restrictions on the import of weapons and weapons-related equipment, including those connected to 3D printing. Proposed measures also include limiting firearm ownership to Australian citizens. As the country grieves, Australia is coming together to honour the victims. Donations for Ahmed Al-Hamed, the man who disarmed a gunman during the Bondi Beach shooting, have crossed $1.1 million, with contributions pouring in from across the country. We'll talk about this with our guest. Joining us on the show is Charles Thompson, Australian journalist. Mr. Sumit Peer, senior political commentator, also with us on the show. Last but not the least, Major General Dr. Rajan Kochar, senior defense expert, also joins us on the program. So let's in fact jump into this debate and get some introspection that is happening in Australia at this point in time. Charles, I'll begin with you. Well, first of all, India stands by the people of Australia in this brutal attack. Tell us what is the feeling like at this point in time in Australia when it comes to this terrorist attack. Obviously, this is something which can also be attributed to a lack of predicting that these weapons will be used by this gentleman and his son to kill innocent people. What is going on in Australia at this point in time? Is this also indicative of a tide that may turn against immigration?
Okay, so let's unpack that. First thing, the government, and by the government I mean the politicians, the Prime Minister, the Foreign Minister and the Home Minister, knew this was going to happen. They had full warning. In fact, there was a program put in place and a dignified person did a whole package of what needed to change. This anti-Semitic violence, even the Jewish community had told the government clearly and straightforward that this was happening, and unfortunately the government encouraged it, not directly but inadvertently. There was a problem with Palestine and Israel, and the government allowed that to flourish in Australia. This is the point number one. Point number two, we must understand that the son was born in Australia. Now, how come he has such radical views? Enough's enough. We've just had enough of this. No, we are a multicultural nation. We love our people from various nations. We even had that wonderful Muslim gentleman tackle the father and knock him to the ground and save lives. So the question is, it's not, first, guns, of course. How could someone have registered for 6 guns, carry them all around, have a pipe bomb in their car, and practicing gun shooting? I mean, it just defies belief. So yes, gun laws need to be tightened. But the other part of it is, we won't name the institute because we have to give them the benefit of the doubt for now. But this boy was coached. This is what it's all about. It's about coaching. You can't allow this to continue. And unfortunately, even though I have many good Pakistani friends in Australia, why is it that whenever terrorism is involved, Pakistan pops up? I mean, this defies logic. Everywhere in the world where there is some sort of terrorism, it's Pakistan. So at the moment, the Australian public is very angry. We're not happy with our Prime Minister. And even now, whatever the Prime Minister is saying, it's not enough. This is the second time we've gone through such a severe tragedy. Last time, mammoth changes were made. And this time, huge changes, not tinkering around the edges, will have to be made.
You're absolutely right, Sumit Peer. It's really bizarre that somebody who had 6 weapons of different caliber was allowed to obtain them despite their background, and look what it resulted in. The country gave them shelter, the country gave them opportunities, the country gave them an opportunity to grow and mix with the people of Australia. I've been to Australia several times myself. I've been to Bondi Beach as well. It's a great place. They welcome immigrants. If these two wanted, they could have made a life for themselves. The son, in fact, was born and raised in Australia, Sumit Peer, and yet there was this granular element of him being radicalized, and he lived only with his father. He came from a broken home. His parents were divorced. And once again, it goes back to Pakistan, the country which pops up every time there is an inkling or a hint of a terrorist attack anywhere in the world.
Vinny, thank you very much for having me on your show. I mean, you summed it rightly and beautifully. Look, the idea is simple. Pakistan is the epicenter of Islamic terror and global jihad. We have to stop calling it terror. It is point blank Islamic terror. It is jihad which is at work. There is nothing else. What Charles brought a right point is the son was born and brought up in Australia. By the virtue of citizenship, he is an Australian citizen. But, he went to, there's some Quran madrasa in Melbourne where he got some kind of a degree in Quranic studies. There's a photo in the social media. So I think possibly the radicalization happened there. But the bigger problem is that a fruit seller, why does he need 6 guns for? What is he going to, aim apples and oranges? Point number 1. How could he get 6 guns? And Vineet, there is a clear-cut Pakistan and ISIS connection here, because from them an ISIS flag is already recovered. By the way, Australian intelligence in 2019, this Akram, the son, was summoned, he was questioned, and he was let go. He had known inclination, liking, and he was partially involved with ISIS. This is on record. And still they let him away, thinking that this man is going to become an angel. And he's going to be a great son of Australia, and he's going to make Australia proud. And he exactly made. But on the other side. So why did intelligence let a radicalized jihadi go away? You think jihad can be turned around? You think you could change them? You think you can win their hearts? No, you live in fool's paradise even if you dream like that. That's the reality of the sun. Look, father and son, they were killing people like those ducks. The person who's died, the girl was 9 years old or 10 years old. Holocaust victims, they survived Holocaust, but they died here. People from, Israel came 2 days back, they put a bullet in his head. Rabbi's son-in-law was killed. And with all these things happening, you are saying it's a normal attack. And when the mother was asked, she said, oh, I know my father, my son has went for fishing. So you went for a fishing expedition, then you suddenly thought, let me pull up my gun and kill some 20, 30, 50 Jews. And that's what it is. And in the car, when you believe it or not, there's an IED. So they were waiting when the crowds would be around there, when they will kill people, then the IED will go up. It's a clear-cut ISIS signature. And to add more to it, Sir Mossad officially warned Australian government 1 month back, on this day there is a possible attack going on, and they even told them there might be an Iranian hand on it. And the person who is heading the jihad group in Australia was named Isaac Hailo Hatari. That is the name they gave them. Australians say we have cracked on a few, but they left this beautiful son of ISIS to be there so that he could banish his guns one day. And he was a bricklayer. Then the person who was handling it possibly from Iran is named Sardar Anwar, and he's the head of one of the top ranking officers of Islamic Revolutionary Guard of Iran. And by the way, Australia has declared Islamic Revolutionary Guard as a terrorist organization. So Vinny, there were enough clues on the cloud, there were enough things on the screen which said, yes, this is happening. And this defies one logic. The Delhi bombing and this defies one logic. Jihadis, they might be born in Pakistan or America, they can still be a jihadi. Jihadi can be engineer, he can be a doctor, he can be a professor, he can be a government teacher, he can be anybody. He can have a master's, he can have a bachelor's. Like you remember Burhanwani had master ka beta. So all of them, when they turn to the path of jihad, education, demographics, it does not matter. It does not matter where you were raised. You are an Australian citizen. You had got a beautiful Australian life. Still, you wanted to come and kill Jews, and that is the reality of new jihad we are facing. And why did Anthony Albanese's government let it happen? They were Pakistanis coming on white horses and saying Palestine, Palestine. They were taunting the girls. Ladkiyan chhedte the wahan. You know, the white females are really being harassed by Palestine, Palestine. You let this anti-Jewish sentiments flourish there. You gave them all the patronage. You wanted to be politically correct. You wanted to be tom-tomming with the Western lobby so that we don't look different. And at the end of the day, you bear the brunt. Your two policemen were critically injured. Your 18 to 16 people dead. You have 46 in hospital. 6 are critical, which will not make it possibly. I hope and pray they make it. This is what a Pakistani son and son and the father could do. You know that is now we are looking at a what do you call a generational jihad. We had seen land jihad, love jihad, bomb jihad. We are looking at a generational jihad. This is jihad percolating down. And what do you do with the jihad? Jihad has to be crushed. You cannot control jihad. You cannot buy jihad. You cannot dismantle jihad. Jihad unless and until you crush it. And still, world is trying to be politically correct, saying, oh, they were terrorists. What terrorists? What goddamn terrorists? This Islamic terror. Has Donald Trump opened his mouth? Has Donald Trump summoned his best friend, failed Field Marshal Munir, who is his best buddy in Pakistan? When you patronize jihadis like Munir, when you give them the national stage, when you give them the international stage, sorry, some people will lose their lives, and this is exactly what will happen because these jihadis, look, Mullah Munir is the hero of the world. He goes to America and says, I'll wipe out the whole half of the world if you mess around with me. And still, Marco Rubio, Donald Trump don't dare to open their mouth. And somebody in Australia, somebody trying to celebrate a festival, 84-year-old man and a 9-year-old girl has to pay the price. This is the agony of the times we live in. The biggest problem of the world is political correctness vis-a-vis jihad. That is the problem. You all tend to be politically correct. Let's take it. Then you say terror has no religion. Then you say terrorists have no religion. Well, sorry, sir. That argument cannot fly any longer. I rest my thought.
All right. Valid and passionate point, Sumit, as always. General Kocher, taking a leaf out of what Sumit said, in fact, he said context to it as well, that if every terror activity throughout the world emanates from Pakistan, then why are some of the superpowers around the world, in bed with Pakistan?
Thank you, Vineet. I've heard both the speakers. Sumit has been very, very passionate, as he's, normally is, and Charles has brought out a very correct perspective in Australia. So now let me give you a detailed perspective on the situation in Australia, which Charles was trying to bring out. The situation in Australia, one needs to understand today, Australia has a population of 27.2 million people, out of which 8.6 million people are migrants. That means people born out of Australia. So that is 31.5% of the Australian population. So if we take that argument further, it is 1/3 of the population of Australia is migrants, and they are a strong voter base for the political parties there. So corollary to that is that when you have a strong voter base like that, some kind of appeasement politics will always be there, as we have seen in all parts of the world. Australia is no different. So that is point number one. Point number two is genesis of the conflict, because if we need to analyze why it is happening in Australia and why it has happened after 1996. If you remember, the last attack in Australia of this kind happened in 1996. So there has been a gap, I can say now 29 years. And why it is happening now is because the people who are there of Pakistani origin, Iran origin, Lebanese are there. So all these people, because of the Gaza war, what has happened is that the people are angry. at Netanyahu, and that anger has been translated to the Jews. So that's what we call anti-Semitism is a very strong factor in Australia. I think Charles will agree with me when I make this strong statement that anti-Semitism is not anything new in Australia. This has been going on for a couple of years now. Now, what the government is doing about it? See, before we start blaming Pakistan, XYZ, all those countries, there is a need for introspection by the Australians themselves.
Right.
Don't they want peace in their country? Will they allow this kind of incident in which not only the Jews who have lost their life, you have rightly said that two policemen have also been injured, and we don't know what kind of injuries they would have got. So it is by and large a peaceful country. It has been devastated by these kind of immigrants. So I would like to appeal through your channel. Charles is also there. He can also present his views. First point is that you have a very liberal policy for granting temporary visas. Last year, if I can give you statistics, 6 lakh people in Australia have been given temporary visas to come to Australia. Is that justified? 2.9 million people in Australia, which is almost 10% of the population, have got temporary visas. So if you have this kind of a regime in which the screening is extremely lax because you want to give somebody a visa to come to your country, look at his social media handles. See what kind of ideology he is following, what kind of hate he is following. And if you are seeing a person who is full of hate is actually coming in, and in this particular case, the father was Australian, the son was indoctrinated. Now you tell me, you in the same house, does the father not know what the son is up to?
You're absolutely
Does
right,
the
sir.
father not know what is the mind set of his son? So you can't blame it on these people. You have to take the blame on Australia itself. The Australians need
Right,
to be
but
blamed.
that's a strong point you make, sir. Charles, what changes can the world at large expect forthcoming after this terrorist attack? Is Australia going to be a lot more careful in filtering who's allowed to enter?
Okay, I just want to connect something that Sumit ji said. My understanding is our police and our intelligence services are amazing. It's our politicians and the current government, Prime Minister, Foreign Minister, and the Home Minister are at fault. Over the last 2 years, they have allowed this to explode, anti-Semitism. And if I can give you an example, the police of Sydney did not want a protest march over the Sydney Harbour Bridge. But the government said nothing. They went to the court. Some judge said yes. And we had 100,000 people chanting anti-Semitic slogans across the bridge. So the fault lies with our current leadership in Canberra. And make no mistake about this. This is a life-changing event. The whole country is angry. We've had enough. The rules have to be followed. And I do agree with this vote bank politics. Also, my suspicion is that the boy actually went to an institute, we won't name it because we have to give them a benefit of the doubt, in Sydney itself, which has a large following. So the question has to be asked. And of course, I have every faith that the intelligence services and the police are going to do the right thing. The problem is our politicians. You see, in July, a report was given to the Prime Minister about what needs to be done to reduce anti-Semitism in Australia, and he did nothing. Now, I noticed that the Major General mentioned some figures. My suspicion is that those figures are actually quite higher. So I'll give an example without going into the figures. In Sydney, there are over 200 Indian associations, and we're only a population of like 5.3 million. And the Indian community is very dynamic. So it's very difficult, and I think that and even now, when we see the Prime Minister speak about, he says, oh, we're going to do something with the guns, we're going to do something here. This requires, just like with the last massacre, radical change. It's just not good enough to allow institutions to run, and if it's proven that this institute actually changed this boy's mind and made him what he was, then seriously we have to look at our educational institutions and our religious institutions. And look, this is not a one-off issue. This has been building up. We've had attack on our Hindu temples. We've even had attacks or nonsense going on at Bondi Beach before this. And make no doubt about this, this wasn't just an off-the-cuff incident. This was well planned and possibly planned over a very long time. And I'm sure with time, the police and our intelligence services will work out who else was involved. My only concern is with the current mob that run Canberra. And I am not alone. I think most Australians feel exactly the same.
All right, fair enough, Charles. Sumit, Donald Trump, after that attack in Washington, D.C., swore that he's not going to allow certain people, some of them Somalians, from entering into the United States. Do you think Pakistan has to be included in that list, especially by a country like Australia now? We don't allow Pakistanis after Operation Sindoor.
Look, Vineet, I mean, if you want to be politically correct, then you beat around the bush and give some statements here and there. You can talk, and Americans are good at one thing. They can talk for 1 hour and exactly mean nothing. When you start analyzing it, they have not spoken anything. I think Charles is right. I agree to one aspect that, it is the political patronage to this thing which was happening. There was a lot of political patronage there. And even what the current Prime Minister is saying is just tweaking around, well, let me tweak this, let me tweak this. The problem is, are you willing to take the bull by the horns? The first thing you should announce is that they should, like Trump has said, 19 countries, nobody is coming, no immigration, nothing. I'm kind of cancelling everything. So do you have the courage, Mr. Albanese, to come with a list of 19 or 20 countries, which includes Pakistan for sure, 101%, and which you really said, I mean, Mossad gave you intel that something is going to happen, but you chose, your home minister possibly chose to look the other way. You didn't want to act, and Israelis are today saying, we told you, this is the date, this is the time there will be attack. We have this. And even an Iranian hand is, kind of suspected here. I have given you the names what the Mossad or the Israelis have given them. Even ISIS flag was found in their car. They had IED. Possibly the attack of the signature of the attack, Vineet, is exactly what ISIS did in a Tunisian beach. Again, the father and son might be of Pakistani origin, which they are. But again, the stamp and the signature is ISIS. Now, you are looking at a hybrid jihad wherein a person, a father and son duo, one of them American, or possibly both are Australians living in a house, can say we are going to a fishing to the other part of the world. They carry their guns and start shooting people. So this needs a big systematic revamp, and you have to be seen doing something. Lip service, beating around the bush, doing this, doing that won't help. There are rogue countries, there are Islamic countries which are dangerous. You have to come and talk about them. This is a block of countries. I will not let immigration to come through. And where is Donald Trump? Has he spoken on this? Why is he silent? Or it is only the Jews which have to be defended by the Israel. It's nobody else's business. I mean, when the same 2 Jewish people were killed in New York, the staff of the Israeli embassy, then Americans say, we are going to do this, we are going to do this. 2 Americans unfortunately got killed by Afghani. The hell started breaking loose. Now we are talking of more than 20 people possibly dead, maybe 25. I hope and pray I'm wrong on the numbers. But what is the America doing? What is the Europe doing? Has anybody spoken about them? And still you want to have this Palestine drama going on. And by the way, Australia is a signatory to the act that they want a separate state for Palestine. And when Netanyahu told you that you are scared of your mini microscopic Islamic minorities, you want to appease them, that is why you are saying...
Yeah, you have a point, Sumit. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but you've made some valid points. Thank you so much. Charles, General Kocher and Sumit Peer, appreciate you being here.